morning. This is Bobby Dupre with the Bobby Dupre Show, presented to you each Thursday morning at 7 a.m. And generally, next to me is Matt LeBlanc. But this is not Matt. He didn't go on a diet. And I don't think he wears glasses yet. But anyhow, I have a guest today, Warren Perrin.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Warren is an interesting person. He has a tremendous amount of knowledge of the history of the Acadians, the Cajuns. I imagine you studied the Creoles, some of the little differences. And I was at Philip Andrepon's picking up something, and he says, did you get one of these new books? I said, no, I didn't. And he starts telling me about the book, and he shows it to me. And I said, well, I've heard of Warren Perrin for many years. Never met the man that I remembered, although I met you at a book signing. One of the books that you maybe wrote in conjunction with Pat Morrow and Philip and you, is that correct?
That's right. We did St. Landry Parish history.
And I bought a number of them and gave them gifts. What that would have been 2 years ago or 3?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, I gave them as gifts. So you see, I met you, but I didn't meet you. We didn't get to visit. You were signing autographs that day. But anyhow, Mr. Warren has a lot of knowledge, and I've invited him, and y'all don't get upset that I know a lot of you have asked to be on the program. And I have a few more weeks left. I'm going to be doing the program till January the 12th. That should be the last program unless I get a better offer and more money involved. 0 times 0 is still 0. But it's been fun, and I'm still having fun, and I want y'all to continue watching it till the very last one. But in the meantime, I'd like for Warren to give us a little bit of history of how he came about L'Acadie, a new book, a big tick-tick book, as the Frenchman would say. Tell us a little bit about it, and you've got about 12 minutes.
Well, I had written 7 books about specific people and places dealing with the culture, but it came to me that we needed to do a book explaining to our people here and all over the world that we are about 6 million descendants of the initial Acadians located in at least 40 different places in the world. So this is an attempt of us putting together Acadie then and now. In other words, why is there a Cajun community in Michigan, in Texas, in Maryland, in Florida, in Maine, in Quebec, and all of these other places of the world?
My banker, Mr. James Doherty, his son Jim Doherty is now our district judge, but I threw a few French words like you saw me doing with you, and I threw a few and he answered me. And I said, wait a while. He almost floored me. I said, aren't you from Connecticut? He said, yeah, but they had a French community there. So what you're saying, I experienced it many, many years ago. That was probably my first loan. You know what it was for? I borrowed $1,500 from the American Bank to donate to the building of Queen of Angels Catholic Church.
Wow.
That was my first loan that I recall making, was to give to the church. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to, what you're saying is so true.
Well, it shouldn't be surprising that we're all over the world, because when the British tried to destroy the Acadian culture, it was ethnic cleansing, pure and simple, before that term was invented. But it was a diaspora. It was a throwing these people off their lands and scattering them to the winds.
And took all their land and everything.
Everything they owned.
Cattle and everything that
they only,
had.
whatever they could carry in their hands or the clothes on their back is all they had.
Even separated families, I understand.
That's right. Boys treated as men when they were 10 years old. We know of one story, which is in the book, of a 9-year-old boy separated from his family. He never saw him again, the Seymour, Jean-Baptiste Seymour, and he came to Louisiana with the first boatload 250 years ago.
Leon Seymour lived next door to my aunt.
He's a descendant.
On Pine Street.
He's a descendant.
Opelousas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating...
And we're not playing. This is no plan. We're just talking from the top of our head, like Cat Doucette would say.
And so rather than me try to write histories, what I did was I put together a website of over 100 historians, writers, professors, And I said, let's do an outline of what Acadie is in the world today. And so we whittled it down to 550 pages. We have 55 historians who contributed to this book. So I asked them to submit their history, old history and contemporary. What's it like today? And if you want to go meet an Acadian in Texas, I have the maps that'll show you where to go.
Very interesting. What's the future of the Cajun? We call it the Cajun. Do you agree with that? The Cajun culture, is that okay? That's
yes. The word Cajun is a contraction of the word
Why
Acadien.
do so many people want to come and tour and spend money throughout South Louisiana, which is referred to as where the Cajuns live, basically?
We didn't let our culture become Disneyland. We kept it pure and simple and real. And it's because we saved the French language. Had we lost the language, had we not changed the law, had we not created Codefil and French immersion, I dare say it wouldn't be what you see today.
Mr. James DiMaggio?
That's correct.
He was a leader back in those days. I'd read about it. I was out there hustling, trying to get some business and make a few dollars.
You know who
inspired? And God's been good to me.
Do you know who inspired those men, Jimmy DiMaggio and Judge Allen Babineau? And the Civil Rights Act was signed in 1965. It made the Acadian people say, wait a minute, we have our civil rights to protect and reclaim. And they started a campaign and eventually got Codefil started with John McKithen, signed the act, 1968.
La Lone played a little role in that. He was very active back in those days. And we've brought a proclamation up to, we went up into Canada. On that motorcycle trip, we brought a proclamation that was signed back in those days, whatever, around the 80s, I guess that was, that La had relatives up there, and they visited down here as a group. And that was another story. But I don't want to take it away, but what you're saying, I experienced it, and I was interested. I just wish I'd have got a little more involved, but you can't do it all.
One of the profound things that a professor from Yale University, Dr. John McFarriger, wrote in a book he wrote about 6 years ago, Great and Noble Scheme, and no one had really hit on this. The Acadian culture, or now the Cajun in Louisiana, is the only ethnicity to have developed in North America beside the Native American people. Every other ethnicity came from another place to America to become assimilated, to become Americanized. But the Acadians, because they were deported similar to what we did to the blacks as slaves, that's a very similar experience historically why the Zydeco, the Creole culture, the Cajun and the French culture have not assimilated as others have so readily. That's a profound thing, because before the deportation, those Acadians had been there 150 years and had evolved, no longer called themselves Frenchmen and women. They started calling themselves Acadiens, a new way of thinking. They had developed their own form of republicanism, in other words, self-determination. They were accused of having tête dure. It was more than that. It was independence they were seeking. But it set the stage for the American Revolution, which was just 2 decades later that the Americans finally said, we want our full independence. So there's a lot of stories to be learned about really the history of North America when you study the Acadian experience.
Very, very interesting. I think I'm going to let you run over a little bit, but right now let's take a break, and I'll get a couple of our good sponsors. The first sponsor that I'd like to speak about today would be, what did we agree on? Okay, Dixie Storage. See Joey Doucette over there. For all of your storage needs, whether it's a personal, small facility you need to rent for a few weeks or a few years, or you want to bring your motorhome over there and have a climate controlled situation for it with electricity to keep your batteries all charged up, your refrigerator running, they can handle all of that, and they have a CAT scale there that's certified if you need to weigh your truck after you load up. And they do so much more than just their name storage. They also have a trucking facility, Dixie One, and they also have a glass company in Opelousas, A-Plus Glass, and that's on West Landry Street in Opelousas, and on University, A-Plus Glass there, and you can meet with Randy McCormick, one of the owners. The founder, Mr. Randolph McCormick, started all of this empire, as I refer to it, with concrete all around it, is a son and operates the Lafayette facility. So anyhow, Dixie Storage, and then the next one we're going to take up will be Torgill. And the man there, Mr. Ted Bellard, started with actually they sold probably more cutlery, more knives, and all to the commercial use in restaurants, and of course some people knew about it, but it was not a big company. But Ted has taken Torgill into another area. He's got a huge setup now to do your packaging. If you want to package your own label of seasoning, you go there, you talk to the fellas there, and I'm sure you're going to leave well pleased, and you're going to see some of the latest equipment for packaging right here in Opelousas, Louisiana. And we'll come on back now to Mr. Warren Perrin, our guest today, and I'm enjoying it, and it's bringing back memories that I've experienced also.
You know, the biggest myth I find, the misconception that people have, I see it all the time, is that when the Acadians were deported by the British, they came to Louisiana. That's totally false. They were deported to the British colonies and put in internment camps similar to what we did to the Japanese Americans in World War II. So they were sort of like non-enemy combatants during this French and Indian War which went on. It was the First World War. It wasn't until the war was over and the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763 that they had 800 Acadians on an island prison camp led by Joseph Beausoleil Broussard, and he was allowed to bring 200 Acadians to Louisiana. You know why? Because they didn't trust him to stay up there, because he would have started another war. Tête dure. He would have gone back to try to reclaim his lands. The British were faced after the war with the exact same situation that America is faced with now, Bobby, with Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. We don't know what to do with these prisoners. They're unconvicted. They're enemy combatants. So what are we doing? We're letting them go to a different country but not home. That's precisely what the British did with the Acadians. And so since Louisiana was the only French place in North America, they naturally gravitated to New Orleans. And it's this year we're celebrating the arrival of that ship. It was 250 years ago. They dropped anchor in the port of New Orleans, and it was in 1765. So the deportation was in 1755. They didn't get here until 10 years later. And they were so well received, and they got land grants in the Opelousas territory, the Attakapaw territory, which is St. Martin, St. Mary, and Vermilion. All these other Acadians languishing in these camps wanted to come to Louisiana. And over the next 20 years, about 3,000 came to join that core group. So we're only talking about maybe 3,500 Acadians came to Louisiana.
I'm kind of getting some tears because I'm thinking of my daddy coming on that orphan train in the early 1900s. And they were assimilated, as the word you use, into South Louisiana primarily because it was Catholic. And it was a Catholic, the New York Foundling Home was operated by Catholic nuns. And that the nuns rode on the train actually to bring these babies into our area. And kind of gives me a touching. Immigration has always been kind of something that I feel we immigrated here. They called my dad and him according to what he taught me. He spoke very little about it. I never knew it till I was out of college. I was 22, maybe 21, 22 years old. And one day he handed me a little piece of paper and asked me to write to the New York Foundling Home to see who his mom and daddy were. And I broke out crying, like I'm almost crying now and they were called little New Yorkers on the playground. So it's a touch, you know, they came here and some people felt they were not needed. But thank God these families took him in, and while he didn't get adopted, he was raised as an equal child, very, very good family, and most of them were, you know, the Roy Motors in Opelousas. But their father, Martin's father, was the mayor of Opelousas. He came down on that same baby train. So they assimilated, and it's touching. Anyway, I'm just wanting people to know that when you talk about immigration, we've got some Spanish people working for us in this United States of America, and they're all the way into Canada now. They're doing all the work of, you know, it used to be when they first came here, they came with wheelbarrows. That's all they handled. Now they're doing the electrical, the plumbing, the carpentry work, and I don't know, we've got to find a way to welcome these people and make them be a tax-paying citizen. If they're not, I don't know that they're not paying taxes. Some say they are paying taxes. But anyhow, I hope I'm not cutting you short.
No.
But there's a lot of similarities of what you just said there about sending 200 of them to get him out of the way because he was such a strong-willed person, is what you're saying.
Well, to follow up now, they get here, they get to New Orleans, they baptize the first baby February 19th, 1765 in a little church where now you have St. Louis Cathedral. So that's the first footprint. And all of a sudden they are told Louisiana's been transferred to Spain, because Louisiana was a Spanish colony from 1763 until 1800. So guess who gave the Acadians the land grants in Opelousas and Tacopos? The Hispanic government of Spain. Isn't that ironic? And now we're talking about illegal immigrants coming in from Hispanic countries. So it's amazing how much you learn from studying history. And I asked a professor from Brigham Young University, a Mormon, who wrote a book called Acadian Diaspora. I said, why would you spend 3 years writing this marvelous book on Acadian history? He says, I have studied history. I'm head of the history department. You have the most exhilarating, interesting, frustrating history of any people I have ever seen. And so we have to make sure our children understand these life lessons to be learned from what our ancestors did to make sure that they had a new place. I like to say they left the meadows of Grand Pré. Beautiful. If you've been there, you've seen these marshes there reclaimed. Yeah. Beautiful. They left the meadows of Grand Pré and they came to the prairies of Louisiana. But we're still the same people at heart. They never could destroy us. They tried, and we just have this independence in us, in our heart, to keep that struggle alive. And we should respect all minorities because of what we went through.
Yeah, we were a minority, yeah. What other short part of that history you could pass on to us, or you'd rather keep it for the people to buy a book? How much does this book cost, by the way?
The book...
by the way, he has it published here in English and French.
That's correct. And it's been called a mini encyclopedia, Bob. It's over 550 pages. It's on the top 10 bestseller in French in Quebec. My wife and I are going to be honored to go with Philip and Debbie Andrepont and Kermit and Debbie Bouillon, November 20th in Paris. The book will receive the Prix France Acadie, which is the recognition of the best history book published in the world.
When is that going to, when y'all
November
going?
20th.
Oh, yeah? So it's too late for me to go.
Oh, tu peux venir avec nous autres.
I wish I'd have known about this.
We're going to put you in a suitcase.
Suitcase, yeah.
And we asked the 55 historians who contributed to the book, we asked them to designate a museum where we would give part of the sale of the proceeds, because all the money is being donated to museums. And that helped us identify 22 Acadian museums in 4 countries of the world, including England. We have an article from an English historian, because a little-known fact, again, is that some Acadians were put in prison camps in London and Falmouth and Plymouth, England, because they were considered British subjects and they couldn't send them back to France. So they had to send them to England. And those eventually made it to France and after 20 years, eventually came to Louisiana in 1785.
Now, what about Mobile, Alabama? Always talking like some landed there before New Orleans. That's not correct?
That's not correct. There were a few. There's a report of 20 of them that
there
took
was
that.
Fontenot's.
That's a different story, because at the Treaty of Paris, it was the largest transfer of land in the history of the world after the Treaty of Paris, because all of North America had been New France, became British, but Florida became British territory. It extended all the way to the Mississippi River. So those Frenchmen who had settled Mobile chose to leave and come settle in Louisiana. So that's where you get a lot of the Lafleurs, the Fontenot's, the Frugiers that came from the Mobile territory, which had been French, became British, and those people moved and came to Louisiana.
Oh, you're interesting. I hate to say that, I guess, you have any closing you'd like to make, or you feel you've sold the story is very interesting. I hope that those of you that are watching it are enjoying it as much as I am, and I guess depending on your last name might have something to do with it, but I think people overall like history, and if you're living in the area, why not learn more about it? And that's why I broke my rule of not having guests, and I thought that this was so interesting because it's about us. It's where we started. It's how we got here and the history of it. And what about a little short man in Washington, James Lafleur? James Lafleur. You know James Lafleur?
I do not.
You don't know him? I'm surprised. He's into the Creole culture. He's I think he's a school teacher. Little short man. I'm surprised you haven't met him. He's written some beautiful books, beautiful, real high gloss, and very expensive. You could tell he spent some money to publish those books. Anyhow, I think y'all need to meet. But again, thank you so much, and hopefully you've enjoyed the visit as much as I've enjoyed it. And to all of you out there, the books can be found where?
Certainly they can be picked up at Andrepont Printing, because the Andreponts were the publishers of the book and longtime supporters of the culture. In my law office in Lafayette on La Rue France, 251. Or they can be ordered in many bookstores. They're on the internet, acadianmuseum.com. We have the website can be picked up there, and we're running a Christmas special, by the way. It makes a nice Christmas gift.
Yes, sir.
Merci.
Would you autograph mine before you leave?
Absolument.
I brought a pen. I always carry a pen because I'm a salesman, and a salesman needs to always have a pen. You never know when you might have to write down a prospect or take an order for insurance.
Okay, and I'll also give you a Acadian flag pin, which it's amazing after that terrible shooting in Lafayette how people rallied around the Acadian flag. And I'll mention, Bob, because we talked about Hispanic culture, the little gold castle at the bottom of the flag, that's thanking Spain for making Acadians welcome. So to me, it's the gold star is our patron saint Mary, and it also represents the service of the Acadian men with General Galvez in the American Revolution. They defeated the British at 3 important battles. So I'm presenting you with that souvenir. We're the only place in the world that have our own Acadian flag. It was adopted in 1974 after the region Acadiana was adopted in 1971. So it's a very symbolic emblem of our Acadian heritage.
You wear yours proudly.
Tout le temps.
Tout le temps. Well, for the next few weeks, I've got to start wearing my Santa pen, but then after that, I promise you, I'll have yours.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Bien merci pour venir sur le show de Bobby Dupre. C'était bien bon.
Mon plaisir.
Welcome back to the second quarter of the Bobby Dupre Show, and of course our first quarter was a little long this time. We had a very interesting guest on the program, which is a little unusual for the Bobby Dupre Show, but he was talking about the Cajun culture and the history of the Cajun culture.
Some good
Mr.
information.
Warren Perrin, very, very good. I hope all of you that are listening to the program now have had an opportunity to listen to it. If not, try to get some kind of way to pull it back up on your computer or your internet phone. You can listen to it. Very interesting. A scholar.
It was very.
He's a scholar, and then he loves it, and he's written a very, very thorough book, which is for sale. I never asked him the price. I think it's around $40, but it's 550 pages approximately.
A lot of information.
A lot of it's kind of the Cajun culture dictionary is what he described it as. Others are calling it that, not him. Others are calling it a dictionary. So anyhow, we are going to get a couple of our sponsors right away, and then we'll get into some good, we've got a lot of pictures to show, and I think it'll be interesting, but we need to move.
We're going to move on. We got, want to tell you about Carl's Thrifty Way over in Opelousas, and of course, for all your pharmaceutical needs, you can visit Carl's Thrifty Way, and they will be right there on the spot to help you get that filled. But while you're there, visit their gift shop. Last week was my wife's birthday. That's the first place I went and found great presents for her in the gift shop. So for any occasion, visit the gift shop over at Carl's Thrifty Way. Give them a call at 948-7900. And also, we want to tell you about Quarters Truck Stop, Casino and Travel Plaza on I-49 North, just north of Opelousas at exit 23. Get your good Chevron fuel there, and while you're there, you stop in and eat at Subway or authentic El Pico de Gallo Mexican restaurant, and try your luck at plenty of video poker slot machines. Here they do pretty well there.
Okay, and what pictures we're going to come up. Well, first of all, I want to wish a happy birthday to Miss Della Dupre. Her husband was the late Mr. Chapman Dupre, and met them many, many years ago. I guess we're related somewhat, but we all cousins out in the country from the Plaisance Prairie Ronde area. They were more raised in what they'd refer to as Prairie Ronde. I always called where I was raised in Plaisance. But anyhow, she'll be 90 years young, or today, Wednesday. We taping on Wednesday, and she's 90 years young and still very up and at it. Beryl Cormier is one of her daughters, and Norma is married to Arthur Shake Snyder. They live in New Iberia, and I got to know them quite well several years ago at the Point. They have a camp there, and I don't go very often, and I'm not sure how often they go anymore, but their home is in New Iberia. And I think Arthur is kind of turning over some of his rental property to a member of his family, some of the kids, one child, maybe a son. But he had accumulated quite a few rental properties, and good people. And Miss Della, nice talking with you, and many more healthy, happy birthdays.
Happy birthday. Absolutely. Also, I want to, before we pull the pictures up, we got to tell our good friend Laura Sebastian hi. She watches the program every week, and she sent me a message over the weekend saying that she saw me in Cash Saver, one of our good sponsors. So she says she will not miss the program.
You want to get Cash Saver right now while you're talking about it?
You sure can. I was at Cash Saver because I shop at Cash Saver. They've got great deals. That's also related to Piggly Wiggly on the north side of Opelousas, 2 locations. On the south side, it's just called Cash Saver. On the north side, it's Piggly Wiggly. But you can go to gotothepig.com and get all of your coupons and your specials right there. Find out all about it online. Great shopping experience at both locations.
One more little thing about Ms. Della Dupre. She took over the bus driving chores of Mr. Chapman at some time during her younger age, and she asked me to tell all the kids that rode her bus hello, and she hopes they're doing well. How about that? Still remembers her children that rode the bus.
Well, we got a couple of pictures we want to bring up right now. You want to look at the Community Foundation stuff?
We can. That took place on Tuesday, and that was at the Cajun Dome Convention Center. And that picture that be first one coming up looks like Mr. Bill Roder on the left and Willie Gotcha on the right. And in the back of him, the guy with his mouth open, white hair, is Sal Deasy Jr. with American Bank. And
we got another American Bank there.
Yes, Lionel Melanson on the left, my buddy, and my other buddy there, Ronnie Lachute, President, CEO of American Bank in Opelousas and other towns. And the honoree, one of the couples that was honored at the Community Foundation of Acadiana was Pat and Alice Morrow. And look how happy they are, and they should be, because they were recognized for all the giving that they have done, both Alice and Pat. Pat is a very generous, very successful, but there's a lot of successful people that don't put it back out and help the community. Pat never says no, and we appreciate and glad that you received the honor, and we had a blast. It was good to hear all the good things said about all of my friends that were honored yesterday.
And there's a couple more.
That's his sister right here, Sis Laporte, and her husband. And you know them?
Yep, I know Sis.
Okay. And a lot of people there, and a little over 800, in fact. And Harold Taylor, new councilman-elect for the parish of St. Landry on the left, and parish president Bill Fontenot. And he could have taken a little bit of my rub that forward and take that shine off.
You have to show him that trick.
Jim Lopez, my attorney and dear friend, on the left. Willie Gotcha again, Winton LaFleur, Mike Michaud and his wife, and again Harold Taylor and Bill Fontenot. So lots and lots of people.
Yeah, we'll just
Tyron Picard on the left, Judge James Doherty, who made the introduction in the history of Pat and Alice's contributions, along with his wife Charla. And I'm not sure of the gentleman on all the way on the right, and I apologize. And Pat and Lionel. In fact, I met Lionel at Pat's office at a political stage, and we were working on electing some candidate way back yonder, and we've continued our friendship, so I wanted him to be at Pat's presentation.
There you go. And there's a picture of you and Pat.
Yeah, actually, I got a picture.
Not bad, huh? There's another one.
There's another one. Mr. Doherty on the left, and Pat and myself. And Amy and Harold Taylor, his wife, and Lionel. And they probably, and this is Mr. Jim Prince. And when I talk about,
tie, huh?
Yeah, and when I talk about Jim Prince, he is a prince of a man.
Yeah.
He's retired now. He was Stone Energy for many, many years, I guess, when they founded the company. And married one of the girls. And this is on the left is Mr. Gerald Boudreau, the newly elected state senator. He's my state senator now, and we had a good breaking of the ice again. You know, the election's over with. He's our senator.
Got to move on now.
And moving on. And this is Jean-Paul Cousson. He's in the runoff for state representative in Lafayette. So
there you go. There's our senator
and then
again.
There's the senator again, along with Mr. Bo and Miss Jerry Ramsey. And there's a little story about Mr. Bo. Just hold that up just a minute. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's Jackie on the right. And then Jerry and Bo again. Mr. Bo was one of the patrons sitting in that movie theater that got
the Grand.
All the Grand. And he took a bunch of shots, 7, and none of them were in critical areas of his body. That was, I learned that yesterday. I'm sure it was known before, but Gerald Boudreau told me, you know, and of course Mr. Ramsey is well known, very successful businessman, and I had never had the opportunity to meet him. Jackie, well, that's old friends. That's George Richard. You know, I talk about George Richard. That's his niece.
Okay. And to my knowledge, I think the Grand is going to reopen next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, good.
Or next month. I'm sorry. Next
All right.
month.
And this is, again, Mr. Ramsey, his wife, Mr. Rusty Klucher, the president, CEO of Mid-South Bank, which with the location right next to my OPAC building there, and of course Gerald. And Gerald, I thought we had taken a picture. He told a good little story to the Ramses.
Well, that's all.
They said, "What is?" Bobby Dupre, he said he does a show. He says, oh yeah, he does a good show. He says, I watch it a lot. In fact, he says, the last few months I watched the first program and I never heard my name mentioned or anything. And he says, so I watched the 3 o'clock on Sunday edition, thought maybe I had missed something. But he says, and of course he was making it as a joke, I was pulling for Ladrika. and that's how easy it was to renew our friendship and all. Great guy, and he's going to do a good job. He wants to come to St. Landry Parish and have a gathering of people that are interested in local government and find out what the people are interested and what the needs are of our parish. Good first step.
Great first step. Well, we're going to have to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have the third quarter and some more pictures.
Welcome back to the third quarter of the Bobby Dupre Show, and they're running about 10 minutes apiece. The first one with Mr. Warren Perrin lasted a little longer, but he had...
First quarter was a half.
Was a half, yeah. That's a good way to describe it. And, of course, we've got some more good pictures of the Boxing Museum and other good pictures coming up, and we need to get right into it.
Sure. Let's talk about LHC Group. And as you can see on your screen right there, you can bring that back up, Dylan. That's the LHC Group. That was Mr. Brock Myers that you were seeing right there, and his wife Carly Myers. Brock is the son of Mr. Keith and Miss Ginger Myers, the founders of LHC Group.
And he's working there now.
Yeah, and he's working there. He's one of the guys over at LHC. So LHC Group, for all your needs in healthcare, it's all about helping people.
This was at the Boys and Girls Club, one of their meetings. I guess an honoring type program.
There you go. And also we want to talk about the Steamboat Warehouse Restaurant over in Washington. Visit the Steamboat Warehouse for an experience you won't forget. Great food, great atmosphere, great people. Steamboat Warehouse Restaurant, best food around, second to none. In Washington. Visit them. You can visit them online also at the SteamboatWarehouseRestaurant.com. And
one
more to talk about, which is St. Landry Homestead. St. Landry Homestead with locations in Opelousas, Eunice, and Port Barre. A brand new location coming soon in Port Barre.
Contract's been let on that particular job. That has been let.
So
that's what I understand.
It is moving. It's going to be a nice location, and there's a new location also in Eunice. Opelousas might as well be a new location with all the renovations they've done. All your banking needs, St. Landry Homestead. Visit them online, www.stlandryhomestead.com.
There was a death that I forgot to mention last week. Remember, after the program, I was all upset with myself that I had forgot to mention Nini's death. And Nini is Anita, better known by all of the LaBar family, including Adelaide and Kelly, as Nini. And she was married to a Jones, but she was a LaBar prior to marriage to Jones, and has one child, if I remember correctly. She died and was buried last week, and lo and behold, I don't know what happened. Well, I know what happened. I never transferred the note from the cell phone, which I was given the information on, to a paper like I generally do. Kelly had called me around maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and I said, well, I'll get it in the morning. Well, in the morning I got on to putting the program together and overlooked it. So to the LaBar family, I deeply apologize, and I knew her well. She was a lot of fun to all of the family, and got to keep my microphone there.
Some of the technicals.
So to Kelly and Adelaide and all the LaBars, my deepest sympathies.
Absolutely. And I want to mention another death that occurred this week. Miss Tricia Plum over in the Leonville area. Miss Tricia was very, very involved with Beauchamp High School and with her son and her daughter, Taylor Plum and Elena Plum, and her husband, Johnny Plum. Tricia passed away due to complications from a surgery. Arrangements have not been made as of this time, but our deepest sympathies to the family. We were friends with the Plums.
Okay, and we're going to go into some, maybe the boxing museum in Plaquemine was
Sure.
dedicated last Saturday. It was Louisiana High School Boxers. You might recall in 2013, we had our first group of honorees that were Hall of Fame awards, and we had 2 of those, and then this man right here, he's a one-man show, Don Landry.
Yep,
originally
he sure
from
is.
Lafayette, and he undertook this, and he wrote the script. I mean, everything that I ever said, he had a note to remind me what to say and who to thank and everything else. And these are people that helped us put this on. And on the right are the A-Bears. And I'm not going to name everybody. On the left, of course, is Bobby Swallow, state champion, NCAA LSU champion, and big, tall gentleman on the second from the left is Larry Oye. So all of you all, thank you all for being there. Thank you all for working. And this is part of the Larry Oye, the ladies that we just passed up. And this is Ron Dupre, our assessor. He was a boxer with Riley Fontenot. This is Riley Fontenot, and Bobby Freeman from Plaquemine, and was heavily involved in getting this space that we now have in the Iberville Museum.
You mean Lieutenant Governor Bobby Freeman?
Lieutenant Governor Bobby Freeman. He was a fighter as a politician, and he was a heck of a good boxer as a high school boxer.
Fighting for y'all now.
And he went, if I'm not mistaken, he fought at LSU also.
Yeah, I think so. Yep, sure did.
And these are people that are visiting. That gentleman on the left was reporting for the Advocate, and I understand that the Baton Rouge Advocate had a nice article, which I'd like to have for my records. And this is Mr. Jack Franklin, one of the only men that ever defeated Cassius Clay.
Muhammad Ali?
Later, Muhammad Ali. But when Cassius Clay was an amateur, this man you're looking at, he's still pretty fit and solid and straight up.
You'd have to be to get
better
in the ring with Cassius.
better than Ali. Ali, of course, has one of these
very debilitating diseases. Yes.
Right. So, Mr. Jack, we love you, and he doesn't like for people to say that, but I got to tell the world that amongst our high school boxers was none other than a person that defeated him in the amateurs, probably AAU amateurs, or Golden Gloves.
That's incredible. That's something to talk about.
And they wear their shirts. They have monthly coffee gatherings. Plaquemine guys have
Green
really,
Devils. Yeah,
they've really stuck together and have a wonderful organization and great people over there. That's Bobby Swallow talking to the editor. And this young man right here is, I'll have it down. But anyhow, he is, I'll get him out, he's Wilbert, Jacob Wilbert. And his family in Opelousas is none other than his cousin is Pat Morrow, who we saw earlier. And Jacob is part of the Wilbert family that have quite a few business interests, but he is associated with the funeral home, Wilbert Funeral Home in Plaquemine, been there for umpteen years. Nice, nice young man. Apparently he's president of the museum that we were allowed to bring memorabilia, and they gave us a part of it. And thank you very, very to all of you. You're going to see some pictures of some young ladies.
A lot of crowd there. We had a good turnout.
Good turnout. We had over 100 people that turned out, and that was a rainy day that Saturday, if you remember right.
Yes, it was.
But Larry Freeman, I just saw him. This is the young lady who actually operates, Elizabeth is her name, and she is a curator or the manager of the.
Yeah.
And
just some more pictures of the crowd. And there's Elizabeth again. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's somebody else.
Another. That's the mayor. The mayor died.
Even the mayor came out.
Her husband was the mayor, and he died in office, so they appointed her to end that term, and maybe she'll run for office in the future. But she was welcoming us. Then one of the next pictures will be of the sheriff. This is one of the young ladies, also associated with the museum. And see, nice picture, nice crowd, nice crowd.
Absolutely. There's
That
the sheriff.
is the sheriff right there, Stassel, and brought from Nottoway Plantation some of the most delicious gumbo I've ever eaten, and I love gumbo. But this Nottoway Plantation chef, he makes a good one, and it's not that tick like you see around New Orleans and all that.
Yeah.
It's almost like a stew. This was our kind, but the seasoning that he had the chef had put in there, it hard to beat.
I've been threatening to go back to Nottoway. Now you just gave me another reason.
Yep, and they have
Nice
accommodations, not only a restaurant, but they also have overnight accommodations.
Right.
Rooms, in other words. There's Don Landry.
Giving his speech.
Yep.
He's the gear in the machine.
Yep. He's something else. I called him this morning and thanked him again. And this is Bobby Freeman's beautiful wife, Mary Ann. Hi, Mary Ann. How you doing this morning?
There's a group
and
of y'all.
there's a group of us there. And of course, you see, I'm the photographer, so I'm never
Not
in the
any
pictures.
of the pictures.
No,
We have to
no.
Photoshop you in.
Yep.
Mickey Rivette there.
Yeah.
And there's the sheriff serving some gumbo.
Yep, serving himself. That's right. Sounds like Bobby Guitros in St. Landry Parish. He knows Bobby well.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
Oh,
I
look,
see a lot of
everybody's
familiar
happy.
faces
Everybody's happy. That's the people that waited on us
And
right
that's
there.
all the
we
pictures
thank
from
y'all
there.
very, very, very much.
here. So what we'll do right here is we're going to take another quick break, and we'll come back. We're going to finish it out with a few more pictures.
Welcome back to the fourth quarter of the Bobby Dupre Show, and I've enjoyed it, and I hope all of you have. And we have an interview of a person running for governor of the state of Louisiana, Mr. John Bell Edwards, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But let's get a few pictures building up to that
It looks like
event.
you attended an event, so we can bring those up right there and show your pictures from that event.
This is over at the Embassy Suites, a salesman going to try to make a pitch on products that he sells to schools. The School Board Association was having an annual meeting at the same time as this, and there was a young lady that rode with me. I'm finished.
Okay.
Yeah. The young lady sitting down right here is Charlotte Stemmons. And the man standing up, the gentleman standing up and with the yellow tie and yellow shirt is our president of HBPA. And we were not officially as a HBPA. This was, a gathering, and of horsemen, I guess you could say. And that's Chatters, Bernard Chatters. And he hails from New Orleans but lives with his wife and family in the Lake Charles area.
And that's him in
that's them standing. Again.
Very good.
And this
that's on the way back.
That was on the way back, but that's Charlotte's daddy, Don Stemmons, with Stemmons Horse Supplies. And one of his friends and customers coming up and took a picture of him because he said, "Oh, I know you Bobby Dupre." And I said, "You must watch I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Red." And he showed me his hair. He said, "Ain't much red left," but that's what they still call me, Red Cormier.
And I passed in front of there yesterday.
We stopped in and visited with Miss Deanna. Didn't they take any pictures of Miss Deanna? She was kind of didn't want me to. I could tell she didn't care for me to take a picture. She wasn't fixed up. Ladies like to be kind of fixed up.
That's right. Yeah, they got to be presentable.
But let me tell you, you talk about a hamburger on. And I didn't use that dough bread.
The sourdough bread. Mm-hmm.
I used just white bread, toasted. Man, that
good stuff.
It's a piece of steak.
Yeah.
That hamburger steak is a hamburger steak. Okay.
There we go. We got,
and then this is Bernard Chatters on the left, Harry Benoit, one of the lobbyists in Louisiana, and well known to the horsemen, and former state senator and former mayor of Opelousas. Mr. Don Craven Sr., and then Charlotte again.
Of course, Charlotte again. There you go.
And then these are people with that sales group, Karen and something else. I have it here somewhere. But and then she's given us some instructions of where our little gathering with the candidate for governor, John Bell Edwards, is, and there's some more people came in. On the right is Ed Fanassi, our executive director, and then all the way on the left is a state Mr. Murray, with a state senator in out of the New Orleans area, if I'm not mistaken. And next to him is Arthur Morrell, a member of the HBPA, and he also serves as one of the clerks in New Orleans. There's several types of civil clerk and maybe criminal clerk or something. But anyhow, and then of course Don Simmons. Yeah. And then in the center of these three gentlemen here is John Bell Edwards. And then on the right.
Oh, we'll go back, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Right here.
Right here, be Bernard, the
head of the HBPA.
HBPA.
John Bell.
Then John Bell, and then Arthur Morrell.
Uh-huh.
And then I even got in the
picture.
There you go. Bobby Dupre finally got in a picture with John Bell and Miss Judy Beeler. She's a horse trainer and a member of HBPA. And what we were there for was just, he always supported the horsemen, and we wanted to let him know we give him, you know, individually we giving him his support, and hopefully the horsemen overall will take the ball and roll with it for the election. And then the picture there all the way on the right this time is Harry Benoit, and then on the left is Charlotte, and John Bell in the middle.
Well, there you go. Well, that's all the pictures from the event, but I think you got one more thing, huh?
I have one more. I have a little short interview, if y'all just bear with us.
I'm with John Bell Edwards, state representative presently, and what office are you seeking?
Well, obviously I'm running for governor. The election is November 21st. Early voting is between November the 7th and 14th, every day except for Sunday and Wednesday the 11th, which is going to be Veterans Day. And let me go ahead and say now how much I appreciate the service of our veterans to making sure that we're free, and what better way to honor them than voting.
Must have been a great feeling, election day the 24th, to see the results come in. You were not picked to be on top at first.
Well, it was gratifying, but we knew that our message had been well received by the people of Louisiana. The campaign was really in high gear with a lot of momentum. But people in Louisiana, they're ready to put Louisiana first. They want to turn the page on the current administration. They want a governor who's going to pursue the common interest, not self-interest. And so that's what's happening. And the message is just being very well received. This is not about party. This is about the individual who's best positioned to lead us going forward. And that's why I'm very, very excited about this election. I'm very excited about the future of our state. As our next governor, I'm going to work with people, Republican, Democrat, Independent, to do good things for Louisiana. I've got the relationships in Louisiana with the legislature, with local government, with business and industry, higher education. We're going to make that happen. And the one thing I promise you, Mr. Bobby, is I will stand up and fight against anyone of any party when they propose something that's bad for us, and I will stand up with and fight along with anyone of either party when they propose something that's good for Louisiana. That's what it means to put Louisiana first.
Well, you've been saying that all along. You haven't changed.
No, I have not. And you know, the message has been consistent. And it's.
I have one suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Before we cut this off. Please get your wife to make some more ads.
Well, you know what? You're going to start seeing it today. We have an ad coming out statewide. My wife is going to be in a classroom. She is a public school teacher, and she's going to be in a classroom. You're going to see her with students, and you're going to see her talking about education and the things that I will do as our next governor to promote education in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah. That was the video there.
Yes, and of course, I guess you could summarize that I've chosen John Bell Edwards as...
well, you're playing news reporter is what you're doing now.
Well, yeah. And he's easy to talk with, and remembered the meeting. I mentioned a couple of places that I had been in his company. Never anything like an interview or anything, but then he reminded me, he says, well, he was smiling when I was finishing the second place I told him I had met him. And somebody had asked me that question, if I had met him before, and I was explaining to him, yes, I had. And anyhow, he reminded me that I had met him with Mr. Johnny Raymond in Breaux Bridge at Buck and Johnny's.
At Buck and Johnny's Pizza.
And we have a Hall of Fame person that lives in Opelousas by way of Church Point, Louisiana, Mr. Raymond.
Got a picture of him there.
Picture of Raymond Dupre, who was honored this past weekend over at Southern University. He played baseball for them. He tells the story, or his brother tells the story, that they didn't have much to do, but they could play ball amongst the family members. They had enough boys in the family to to field a baseball team. So he moved to St. Landry Parish when he was still young, out of college, and did very well. Ended up being a principal and just a good guy. And I don't have enough time to really go into all of the explanation but if you know Raymond, all you got to do is say he's a good guy.
That's right. That's
Congratulations to you and your wife, Julia, because she's been right by your side since the first time I met you.
Well, while you're pulling your prayer out there, we want to remind y'all the Cracklin Festival this weekend on Saturday.
3 to 5.
That's right, 3 to 5. You go out and see Kylie Fry.
And her band.
That's right.
And I invited her to come to the breakfast and Santa breakfast, and she'll be in Las Vegas, and she'll be doing some gigs up there for the National Rodeo Association finals. How about that?
Big things in store for Kylie Fry.
Okay, our closing thought, prayer. By your grace, Lord, help me to live peacefully with others, and help me to recognize when I'm the difficult person in the group. Peace can come if we respond with a gentle answer. Boy, I wish we'd get more of that on our TV ads today, but we can't control that. Good luck to all of the candidates, and thank you very much. And we want to thank Mr. Warren Perrin for coming and standing in for about half of the program today. Very interesting. Hopefully all you enjoyed it.